Well, good afternoon, folks. Good evening, wherever you're from. I'm Scotty Roberts, and that over there is my counterpart, Wendy Robertson. How you doing, Wendy?
Good evening from London. I'm
May
doing all right, sweetie. How are you?
I am good. I'm better now. May I be the first to say happy? I was going to say Happy New Year's. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you
Will
very
you be
much.
mine?
Thank you very much. You are the first to wish me
I
happy
am.
Valentine's, and probably the only one as well.
You probably will get a lot of Valentines. May you have
Oh,
many Valentines. May they be loaded with chocolate, as they say across the channel.
chocolate.
Chocolate, huh? Oh, mais oui, chocolate and
Ho,
red
ho.
and wine and oh, oh. There you go. I am not French, so all my French friends out there, no offense. So, how is everything going over there in London today? Prepping for tomorrow. It is Valentine's Eve there. It's still Valentine's Eve afternoon here.
It is. It's Valentine's Eve here. And to be honest, the shops have been full of love and cards, and everywhere you go, there are hearts. And that's the thing about Valentine's, isn't it? I mean, when I was younger, it was so different. It was like, I don't know, it seemed more special. Now it's like as soon as Christmas is over, the Valentine cards are up. And
Yeah,
it's kind of become very commercial, which is a shame because the actual meaning behind St. Valentine's Day very
right.
different.
But of course, everything's become commercial nowadays. We say that for almost every holiday,
Yeah.
and um, I know it was kind of fun last night. It's a little frustrating because she didn't remind me until 9 p.m. last night that she needed a Valentine's box for school today. And I said, "It's 9 o'clock. It's already your bedtime." And so we sat up till 10 o'clock, making her little box. She wanted printouts of boy crushes she has. If anybody's seen what's those teen kind of crush series they have out there. This one is Outer Banks. Outer Banks. It's a couple of years old now, but she had all her little teen crush pictures she wanted pasted all over it. Happy Valentine's Day from the Outer Banks with all the studly
Oh,
young males that are supposed to be, I don't know if they're supposed to be high school or if they're supposed to be college age, but they all look like they're 25 to 30, typical when they're portraying teenagers. So, and oh, the heavy drama. So,
when you're young and everything, younger. Valentine's Day can be a big thing because you go to school next day and everyone says, "Did you get any cards? Did you get
yeah,
anything?" And you're like, and I still remember
I got a rock.
my first Valentine's card, which maybe my mum sent me. I don't know. But I remember thinking, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And then it has been a long time. I actually had one sent to me last year, actually, and I thought, who the hell has sent me this? And he was actually from a friend of mine, and he was like, just couldn't not let Valentine's go past without wishing you a happy Valentine's. And
Right.
it brings a smile. It still
There-
brings a
there-
smile to your face.
I have to say, there's nothing better than wanting to go to school and get the Valentine from the girl you had a crush on,
Yeah,
and then finding out the only one in your box is the one your mom put in there.
I know.
Oh,
I
I
know.
got a Valentine from my mom.
And the thing is, you don't know it's from your mum at the time, do you? But you're
Right.
like,
No.
but I think it's like we all want to be loved. We all want to feel that someone wants us, desires us, and looks after us. And that's the problem, isn't it? There's a lot of these days. I was in a shop the other day looking at all the Valentine stuff, and there was a couple of three girls. They must have been around 15, 16, and they were picking up a card and they were going, "Oh my God, this is really cheeky. Should we send this one?" It was so funny hearing them like pick up a card, which was a little
Nice.
bit naughty, and they were like, oh my goodness, and showing it, and I just thought, wow, that took me back some years. It did.
Yes. And Valentine's was different when we were in grade school. It was all about shoeboxes being converted into Valentine mailboxes and all of that. Then the older you got, Steph says, I've never been a big Valentine's person. I don't like that they pressure you into showing your love. Or like Mr. T says, Valentine's Day. Yeah, I hear you, Steph. To a certain extent, I've never felt pressured to show my love for anyone. Holiday schmoliday, I say. If you're going to show it, you show it. Now, I used to like making cards. I'm getting feedback.
Oh, no, it was mine.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Yeah. I thought I was getting feedback. Sorry. I always like making cards and making things. Making cards out of one of these recent years past, and I try not to do the same thing twice. I didn't have a card for Valentine's Day, and I'd almost forgotten it. It's just another day that goes by, unless you have kids in grade school reminding you, I need to make a box. But I took like tissue paper or regular paper. I think it was regular paper. And I just took little squares of regular paper and I rolled them and scrunched them up and put them on a wire and taped them on, then spray painted them red. And they became roses. And I did a dozen roses and in miniature and pasted them on a card, all over a card, and Happy Valentine's Day. Things like that. I used to love making that kind of stuff.
Do you remember, like, when you would get a card and you didn't know who it was from, and you would look at that, if there was anything on the card, a question mark or with love or anything, you would look at it and you'd be like, do I know that writing? Could it be them? Oh my God. And you would show it to everyone and you'd be like, what do you think? What do you think? And it was like, I think that's the fun of Valentine's Day, if there is any fun. I think that's the fun of it, to actually think I have there is an admirer out there, because, one thing people probably know, some don't know, that Valentine's Day has quite the bloody history.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't what people believe it to be.
Wasn't there somebody who was imprisoned or tortured or something that his name was taken for Valentine's Day?
Well, yeah,
the history you're looking at.
It's a few, and I myself, I still, surprises me every time I read about it. But the earliest possible origin of Valentine's Day is a pagan holiday, and see if I can get this right. The word Lupercalia, and Lupercalia.
Is it lupa? So it would be like insanity type of thing.
Lupercalia. It sounds like almost like a lubrication, doesn't it? Lupercalia.
Is it a B or a P?
It's a LUP.
LUP. Loop isn't loop like a loop garou. It's like
Lupercalia. Yes.
Moon madness.
Lupercalia. And apparently it was always held in the middle of February, and it celebrates fertility. And men would strip naked and sacrifice a goat and sadly a dog and the goat. Then young boys would then take strips of the hide from the sacrificed animals and whip young women to promote fertility.
Oh my goodness.
So where else women
that's what I do. Whenever I want to promote fertility, I whip young women.
Exactly. Especially with hides off dead animals.
With hides of freshly sacrificed animals.
Exactly. Lupercalia was popular. I'm sure it was. And one of the few pagan holidays still celebrated 150 years after Christianity was legalized in Roman Empire. But when, let's see if I can get this name right, when Pope Gelasius came to power in the late 5th century, he put an end to it. And soon after, the Catholic Church declared February the 14th to be a day of feasts to celebrate the martyred Saint Valentine. And obviously, Christian, dare I say about the early Christians, they didn't like a holiday, did they? They didn't like a party. They
Not if
would
it
shut
wasn't
down
about what they
anything
wanted it
fun.
to be about.
They shut it all down. So basically, it was the fact that they tried to replace it, and as they did with Halloween and Christmas and everything else, they all changed it.
I like Dustin Brill. I know Dustin. Dustin Brill, when you were saying, we sacrificed animals and beat virgins with animal carcasses, he comes in with kinky. Yeah, I would say that's kink in its furthest degree right there. So, anyway, did you have more to put in there? Did I?
Well, I was just going to say that apparently there could be there are over 10,800 saints, there are more than 30 Valentines and even a few Valentinas, but
goodness.
two of them stand out like the likely candidate for the saint, but neither dealt with matters of the heart. Both were martyrs, put to death by the Roman Emperor Claudius in the 3rd century, and both that's the one. And both men were said to have died on February the 14th, although years apart. The first Valentine was a priest who was arrested during the Roman persecution of Christians. And when brought before the emperor, Valentine refused to renounce his faith, and as a punishment was placed under house arrest. The head of the house where Valentine challenged the priest to show the true power of God. And soon Valentine restored the sight to a young blind girl, and the whole house converted. And once word of the miracle and conversion reached the emperor, Valentine was then executed. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? You just bring someone's sight back and then you go, right, okay, now we're just going to execute you.
Yeah.
Look, you're going to have to show us that God is with you, and he showed them, and then they killed him, which is lovely of the Christian. And then the other one is the Bishop Valentine of Terni, who was a miracle worker, and he used to heal physical disabilities. And
these guys all had the same name.
They did. Very popular. Daliano, I would imagine.
Acquired names, I wonder.
Well, Valentine is very Italian, isn't it?
Yes.
But apparently a scholar sent for the bishop to heal his son, who could not speak or straighten his body, poor lad. And after a night of prayer, the boy was healed and the family converted to Christianity. And shortly after, the bishop was arrested for his miracles. After refusing to convert to paganism, they beheaded him. Oh. I mean, there's also talk about, when there was
I was always curious about converting to paganism. Isn't Christianity supposed to be what pagans converted away from? So did you have to convert back to we want you to convert to paganism? I think that's probably the writer's choice of words on that article.
Well, I actually think that this is before this the second priest, the Bishop Valentine of Terni. He was in the 3rd century, right? Mm-hmm. And the first, I think the other one is the 5th. I'm not sure, but basically, it just seems that they are perhaps accused of being pagan, because they do witchcraft or acts of healing, etc. Even though Jesus would still be a healer, etc. And then beheaded for it. And isn't that just typical of religion over the years?
Just seems like, when I've talked many times about the early church and the 1st century church, how it's very different than what we are led to believe it was. When you start digging into the history, there was a whole hell of a lot of mysticism that was involved. The God-man issue was not new with Jesus. It was part of the mystic religion, the Gnostic religion, and there was this big battle that raged on for 2 centuries between the mystics or the Gnostics and the literal Orthodox Church, the literalists. and which became, they ended up winning that particular war and became the literalist Orthodox Church, became, of course, the Roman Catholic Church
Yes.
by the end of the 2nd century. But what did they do? In the name of the love of God, we are going to execute all these people that don't accept the love of God the way we're teaching it. And that seemed so vile and so, what's the word I'm looking for? Not anachronistic, so counter to what the love of Christianity was supposed to be.
Yeah.
How often do you suppose Jesus got up and said, and make sure to bring your sword with you so you can kill those who refuse to believe in me?
Yeah.
I never saw that happen, but the church did that. And
it's scary, isn't it? It's scary that this. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, what I was going to say, isn't it scary that a religion that promotes to be kind and
Yes.
for your fellow man have so much atrocities under its belt, including, let's not forget, those lovely and poor Christians out in in Italy and places like, that were put in the Colosseum. And it seems that it doesn't matter what religion you are, Scotty, where you come from, what you believe in. If someone doesn't like what you're doing, you pay the price for it.
That's pretty much it. That's where politics and humanity takes over. Never expect the Spanish Inquisition. So, to quote Monty Python.
That's right.
And so, yes, it's interesting to me when you go through, not to sidetrack us from Valentine's Day so much, but Valentine's Day is supposed to be the epitomal holiday celebrating love.
Yeah.
And as we saw, it wasn't always love, romantic love wasn't always at the core of it. It's become that because when you've got saints that are being put to death because they did this is not the stuff of romantic love. But how did it, where was the changeover? Do you know, in any of your note taking there, what was the changeover where it clicked over into being all about romance, all about declaring your love for the opposite sex?
The Valentine's. Well, apparently the first Valentine's card was dates back to 1415, when the Duke of Orleans sent a card to his wife while he was a prisoner in the infamous Tower of London. In the United States, Valentine's Day cards didn't gain any popularity until the Revolutionary War, when people took up the habit of writing handwritten notes to their sweethearts. And it was only in the 1900s that the cards were mass produced for the holiday. But it's still not celebrated in countries like Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia.
It's not a universal, it's not a worldwide holiday, is it?
Yeah. And in India, a lot of conservative political parties oppose Valentine's Day because they believe the holiday promotes Western values. Can you believe that?
Well, it is love, romantic love for another person. Is that Western values? Or is that human values? It's interesting. I want to get into a debate with these people. It's like, all right, you primitive screwhead, to quote Army of Darkness. I'm all about the. I'm all Jason Patrick today. I am quoting all the pop cultural references. So these primitive backwater people, I've run into them. I was in the very conservative Baptist fundamentalist church when I went to Bible college, to seminary. Romantic love was not frowned upon, but the expression of it was. I went to a Bible college where you could not, let's say you and I were dating back then, you could not, there was a 6-inch rule. No, it's not that 6 inches. It's a rule that says you had to stay within 6 inches of each other, outside of 6 inches. There was no touching. I don't know that there was precisely a 6-inch rule. We made it into that. We mocked the rule. And we were all there voluntarily. We all wanted to be there to serve God and, go to school, learn about the Bible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we couldn't, if you wanted to date, you had to get Now look at this. You're between 18 and 22 years old at college. You
Wow.
couldn't date without getting a pass from the dean of men or the dean of women. You couldn't go out on a date without a chaperone. I think all of this just goes to that they didn't trust teenagers to, well, maybe rightfully so, to go out on their own. I was almost expelled from that college for, you may not know this story, Wendy. In my junior year, my third year at the Bible college, we got caught kissing the woman that was to become my wife a year later. We were dating and we kissed. We weren't like macking and drool drenched all over our faces and our shirt collars. We were just kissed. We leaned in for a kiss in between classes because we thought the coast was clear, and we got seen by a teacher, and we got demerited. And I had so many demerits, it was going to expel me if I got two more. And so I withdrew. I quit. And I had the president of the college had me in his office, pleading without tears in his eyes. You can do this. You can make it to the end of the semester. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't want to. I really don't want to. A place where I'm going to be demerited for this, I don't know that I want to stay here.
Yeah.
And that's when I left the Bible college. So there was certainly within current day Christian circles, there were certainly rules and regulations of, not of the faith, but of the polity of the faith of that particular denomination to prevent certain things from being certain ways. And of course, romantic love was one of them. Sex, what was sex for in the church? Sex was for reproduction.
Procreation. That's it.
Procreation, that's it.
That's it.
And I remember I was in high school, the first I ever heard, for some reason, I was sitting in on one of the adult classes. Now, adult, not by meaning adult like XXX rated. Adult by one of the, the classes of the people that were in their 30s to their 40s. And they were in there and they were talking, the sex came up. And I'm sure, and some of them did not believe the way the church did, because they were saying, well, what was the purpose of sex in the Bible? And it was procreation and this. And one guy says, and recreation. And everybody goes, oh, they're laughing, like, oh, I can't believe he said that. And he says, but it's true. That's what God gave us sex to enjoy.
Yeah.
So you can see I'm off on a tangent here. And
I can see that and bringing back all those memories. But you're right. I mean, sex is there to be enjoyed. And I think that's something that only latter years we've actually come to that understanding and that point that actually you don't always have to, it doesn't always have to be for one thing only, like procreation. But I mean, Valentine, although you get the naughty cards for it, it's about love. It's about telling someone how you feel about them. For you've not had the courage perhaps to tell. I mean, in the days of social media now and everything else, it's still very, very difficult to actually not do this now. But when we were younger, for sure, like, how did you tell someone that you actually fancied them or loved them or wanted to date them?
You just tell them. Nowadays, if I had thought back then the way I think now, it wouldn't have taken a card. It wouldn't have taken, oh, do I say this or do I don't say it? Now it's like, I'm going to say what I think and what I believe and what's in my heart. I'm just going to say it. It's like, all right, everybody, may I encourage you all, especially on a Valentine's Day, to say, if you love somebody, tell them. Don't guess. Don't. Pardon me,
sometimes
don't beat around the bush. You go tell them.
Sometimes it's hard to tell someone, though. It's hard sometimes, though, Scully, to tell someone how you feel. And because nowadays it's a whole new brand thing. Oh, you don't date anyone anymore. You just hang out or you just see them for a while. And then after you've been seeing a while, you think, well, are we dating now? And then it's like, oh no, you don't say I love you or anything like that, because that's just too heavy. It's like, there's so many rules and regulations about dating and stuff now, that it makes it a joke. Because in the old days, it was just like, do you want to go out? Do you want to date?
Yep.
Let's do it. And I'm
Well, now it's
still,
like, I'm going to slap you with a harassment suit. You can't ask me that in the office or
exactly.
wherever.
And it's like harassment. But I just think that we've lost, like, again, another holiday we've lost. But I remember, liking someone and thinking, my God, I might have to wait till Valentine's Day to actually send a card, and then actually sending a card and spending my whole time at home going, oh my God, please don't know it was me. Please don't tell anyone it was me.
Right.
And then what if they don't want me? And I'm going to go to school next morning.
For that person to know, but you want them to do. You've just given them an anonymous hello, anonymous.
Yeah.
You've just given them an anonymous card, hoping to God they go, I wonder if it's that Wendy that I am so madly in love with that sent me that card so I can tell her so. I remember those days. Yeah, we all went through those coy, fearful stages, and maybe it's part of getting a little older, and you go, I don't have the time to fuck around. I hear, pardon my French. And you get to a point in your life where you say, I don't have time to play games. If you're into me, say so. If I'm into you, I'll say so. If I'm not, I'll say so.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been told in many different things, well, I didn't think you really meant that because you didn't say. I said, if I meant that, I would have said so. And now there's a negative to that. What's the old joke? The old joke of the couple riding in the car together, and it's a bench seat in the car, not the bucket seats that comes with it, the pervasive bucket seats. It's like the seats in a 67 Impala, and the bench seat, and guy's driving along, and his wife, when they first got married, she'd be right there. He had his arm around her, and he's driving away. Well, 20 years pass, and she's way over there by the window on her side. And she says something like, oh, I remember the old days when we were first in love, and we used to sit together in the car. And the guy's driving, he goes, I haven't changed positions. I'm right here. I'm in the same spot I was always in. So, and how about that with all you guys? What's Valentine's Day mean to you if you're with somebody and you've been with them for a long time? Valentine's Day is easy to overlook, but I think one of the best rules I saw in I was reading through all kinds of stuff on rules for couples that have been together for a while celebrating Valentine's Day. Don't sweat it if the other person forgets, because Valentine's Day isn't the only day of the year that you can express your love. You know what my philosophy has always been, Wendy? It's make Valentine's Day look small compared to every other day I tell you how much I love you. And make it look small. Oh, this is the official, here's your box of chocolates, and here's your card, and here's your dozen roses. Boy, they aren't as yellow as that 5 dozen dandelions I picked for you in the spring, or they're not as purple as the lilac bushes I picked for you in the fall. The chocolate's not as good as the strawberry juice I poured all over your body, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can get as kinky with that as you want, or as down to earth and romantic as you want. But Valentine's Day, folks, let me encourage you. If you haven't done anything, do something for your partner. Get them a card, get them a flower. Do something, remember it, but don't sweat it if you don't. And you know why you shouldn't sweat it? Because every day should be like Valentine's Day. If you love that,
but unfortunately, it's not. Some people are, may I say this, as romantic as an old pair of socks. Some people aren't romantic, and they wouldn't know romance if it hit them in their face. And you hear a lot of people say, No, they're not romantic at all. And you know, I think as women and as men, I remember one of the most romantic Valentines I had. And I think I've told you before. I came out the bath, and the boyfriend I was with, he put rose petals all the way from the
I
bath
remember this.
to the bedroom. And on the bedroom, he had arranged all these lovely gifts, like really lovely gifts, thoughtful. And they were all thoughtful gifts. They weren't like hearts and flowers. They were like really lovely gifts. And I
Like
remember,
rubber gloves, Playtex rubber gloves for doing
well,
things.
yeah, and it was lovely. And to me, it's I was bought a watch on Valentine's Day as well, which I still wear many years ago now. And every time I look at it, I remember that Valentine's Day when it was given to me. And it wasn't even given to me wrapped up or anything like that. It was like, oh, by the way, I got this for you. To me, it's like, I don't know about you, Scotty, but my life could do with some romance in it. I could
Yeah.
absolutely be romanced off my feet. And it doesn't mean, you know, spending lots of money and taking me to nice places. It's like I could do with being romanced. I've forgotten what it's like to be romanced, quite frankly. And I would like it. And I think the same as you, really. Wouldn't you like to be romanced and
I
still
would.
made
I
feel
would.
desired and wanted?
I like being romanced. You know, I'm a guy. I can admit that, though. We guys, we're more emotional and sensitive than society likes to let on, or
Mhm.
the fairer sex likes to let on. Guys are emotional too. If we don't get those cards and chocolates or the equivalent thereof, we can go, "Oh, how come I didn't get any cards and chocolates from the person who said they love me?" You know, it's that's a thing. And sometimes the stressors of life, the daily routine, the especially those of you out there who are parents or have been parents, you're married and you guys have kids, and what happens to romance? Romance takes a second seat to, it goes way back in the line when it comes to taking care of issues. There are some days where, like, you know, Rainey will say to me, "You need to go do this with the kids because I got this going and that with this kid. You got to take this kid there." It's like right after this show, I've got to run out and try to catch the tail end of my son's wrestling meet, the next city over, because there is always something. And by
Yeah.
the time it comes down to every day where parents, all the kids are in bed, parents are sitting on the sofa or sitting on the edge of the bed, and they look at each other and they go, "I'm done. I'm exhausted. Hey, I love you. Hey, happy Valentine's Day. You too." And it's off to sleep. Sometimes that's all it is. But what do you do during the times when you've got the time? When you've got the ability to do something? When you've got the ability to make, I don't know, to take a day and find something to do, some way to express it. Um, and then, of course, which you and I talk about an awful lot on this show, what happens when you've got the other party that maybe not interested in that,
Yeah.
interested in doing for the kids, doing for the family, keeping the family. I don't have time for that. I don't have time. Sex, but romance. You know, when's the last time you took me out to dinner? It's like, oh, it takes
And the
takes
thing
a while.
about sex is that it's intimacy, and I think when
Yeah.
intimacy is not in a relationship and or it dies, the relationship then suffers. And we're not just talking about, you know, straight away, as Steph Bouchick or wow, we're talking about like small things like
Yeah.
holding hands, kissing, you know, cuddling up to each other, you know. But I think how many people, if they're completely honest, are absolutely happy without having some form of affection. I mean, they might be happy on their own, they might have gone past it, or they might not have any time for it, they might, you know, whatever. But most of us as human beings, we thrive on affection, we thrive on touch. But you'd be surprised, Steph. You'd be surprised.
There you go, Steph.
But it's like, don't you find, Scotty, that I just can't remember that. I mean, it's all about romance, Valentine's Day. And in fact, one of those martyrs was actually in prison, and apparently he was supposed to have healed the jailer's daughter, and he was going to be beheaded, and he sent her a card saying, "From your Valentine," which is where they think it comes from. And it's like it's about showing someone what someone means to you. So I don't think you need to go out and do all the big flowers and chockies and everything. But to me, just to get a card or a note, or do you know what, open my bag and find a note, or, you know, go somewhere and actually go, oh, wow, what's this? And it's like a surprise that somebody thought enough to do it for you. Somebody thought about it. And you know what? It means a lot. And some people are like, oh, I don't do Valentine's. It's far too commercialized. I don't do it. And I think to myself, well, do you do Valentine's Day for the rest of the year? Do you do it for the rest of the year? Because do you know what, Scotty? Most of them don't.
You know, I have always felt there's a bit of excuse making in people who say, oh, I don't do that. It's too commercial. I don't waste my time and money. And it's like, you know what? It's part of our culture. It's a cultural tradition. Do we want to change everything? Is that the new normal? Nothing means anything anymore. Christmas is commercial. It's over commercial. I haven't stopped celebrating Christmas with my kids and my wife and my family. I don't stop because it's become too commercial. I just don't buy into the commercialism aspect of it.
But don't you think that's also a really good excuse? It's also a good excuse for lack of romance and thought, because some men, I'm not saying all, but some men and women, some women as well, they're not very good with romance. They're not very good with expressing their feelings or emotions. And so if they say, well, we don't do Valentine's Day because, you know, it's all commercial, we should do it every day. Well, when do you do it then? Because I've dated people that have said that to me, and I'm like, okay, well, there's 364 days left of the year for you to show me how romantic you are. And believe me, some of them have still, or did still leave me waiting.
I will say to Jason and to Steph and anybody else who's expressing thoughts like that, Jason says, I suck at Valentine's Day. I try to do a good job of finding ways to show appreciation throughout the rest of the year. And then Steph says he needs a guilt trip, and so on. And it's like I said earlier, all of us, if we are in love with somebody, make Valentine's Day seem small and insignificant compared to what you do every other day of the year. Now,
that's right.
None of us is going to be able to go 364 days a year and do better each day. I'm talking about just in everything, like Wendy just said, holding hands. Hey, I'm going to the gas station. Want to come along? Want to come for the ride? And it doesn't always necessitate, meaning ride in the back seat of my car. It means come with me. And see, everything's a euphemism. It doesn't necessarily mean coming with me. It means come with me to the store, to the errand I have to run, to walk around the block, to whatever it might be. Watch this show with me. Look at this book with me. Go shopping with me. I'm not a shopping type of guy, but I like to go to certain stores. I like, let's go to the bookstore.
It's all about effort, isn't it? Effort. And that's the thing. I think one thing I've learned about relationships, look who does the most investing. Look who gives the most time and effort in a relationship. Look into one who basically sorts things out, or arranges things, or does the surprises, or shows more affection, or gives more attention, because a relationship is like a bank. You have to invest in it to get a return. And if one of you is investing more emotionally than another one of you is actually reaping all the rewards, and the other one isn't. And there are so many of us, Scotty, and you and I can sit here from experience and say, we are investors. We have given and given and given in relationships, and we're talking emotionally here. And it's supposed to be something you do all the year round, right? Yep. But at the same time, people take from you. People take, they abuse you. They also, let's look at the other side of it. You give all this, I know people that make a wonderful effort of showing someone how much they mean to them, but they can't tell them, so they show them, which is lovely. But sometimes you need it said to you. Sometimes you need someone to say to you, I missed you. You're on my mind. You smelt great. I can't wait till we next see each other, or I see you tonight when I get home. I can't wait. We don't romance, I don't know that many people are having very romantic relationships, and not just on Valentine's Day, but the other 364. So when people say that to me about, oh, it's only one day of the year, we should do it every year. Well, do you? Do you really? I don't think you do, because no one can do that.
What is very sad is all our jokes and humor and comedy about married couples and the lack of affection and love and sex and all of the things wrapped together. All of those jokes exist not because that problem doesn't exist. It exists because that's the way it is. It's like, so when was the last, do you have sex very often? And the guy will say no. And they'll be asked, well, why? And he said, well, I'm married. And it's the, and there's a lot more sophisticated jokes on that topic than that. But why is it true that familiarity breeds contempt, as they say?
Well, I think people take people for granted. They take people for granted that they're always going to be there, and it doesn't matter, and we all fuck up. We all make mistakes. We all say things and do things that we shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, effort and investment in a relationship, what you get in, you should get out. And if you're not getting out what you put in, then there's obviously like a misbalance here. And I just, I find it frustrating when I hear that from so many people about Valentine's Day being, it's over this, that, and the other. But actually, Scotty, if you think about it, do you have that romance in your life 364 days a year? Oh, he's disappeared. He'll be back in a minute. He has frozen. So we're just going to have to carry on. Nothing worse than someone who doesn't see all that you do in terms of putting in.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. No, seriously, there's been, for about the last 30 seconds, my internet lights have been flashing funny.
We saw that, yeah. My one was still on.
Have I lost you completely?
I'm still here.
Have I lost you completely? Am I here?
Yeah, no, you're still there. Still there. Tell Scotty he's still there, everyone. I'm still here. And I think they can still see me. Yes. Yes.
My internet is doing hinky things. Can you see me?
I can see you. Yep.
People, are you seeing us? There's something going on. All right. So you can hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. I can hear you, Scotty.
I'm going to have to read you by Braille.
Hang on. Let me send you a message. Hang on. I can see you. Hang on.
Yes.
Yeah.
You like Braille?
There you go.
Oh, this says, oh. Okay, good. I think it's clearing up. There we go.
Yeah, I just had to carry
All right,
on.
if
I had
I'm
to
back,
carry
I
on.
know we were at a critical juncture. You were asking me a question.
Well, yeah,
So
like, I mean, how
I
many
don't know if
days
I'm fully back yet or not.
can you
Because
hear me?
you're looking blank at me.
Oh
Like
my
I can see you and hear you. Okay. All right. Okay, good. You're frozen for me. I can see
Oh
you.
my goodness,
I
how
can hear
funny is
you.
that?
Isn't this stimulating radio, folks? Amazing. Riveting radio.
I'm just literally hang on a
This
second.
is kind of a microcosm of relationship, isn't it? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Do you know what I'm saying? I can't hear you. I can't see you. I must. Wendy, I'm going to have to start reading you by Braille.
You'll have to feel your way along.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Steph says, you just reminded me of something with the Braille comment. There you go. There it is.
Are you back, Scotty? Can you
I
hear
want
me
to
now?
wait this out, but I don't know what it's doing. I don't know if I have to reboot things or what I have to do, but
Yeah, it just crashed. It just crashed just now.
you're cutting in and out for me.
Oh my goodness.
All the important stuff is all right. JP, they already did. I still think it's kind of humorous that we celebrate Valentine's Day how we do in remembrance of a guy who was flayed alive. And yes, I know the history before someone wants to give you a lecture. There you go. Yeah, when you went through the history, Jason. So let's see. JP, they already did. There we go. I think I'm back.
Are you back?
I think things cleared up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
It must. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, baby.
Oh, I much preferred the Braille, so I'm going to have to go back to.
Well, that's because you like to feel your way.
That's right. I'm a feeling kind of guy.
I was just saying to you, like, do you have? I mean, yes or no? Do you have romance in your life 364 days of the year?
Hell no.
Do you have romance in your life 300 days of the year?
No.
50 days of the year.
15? Did you say?
50. 50.
It's questionable. Depends on how you want to define it. So, it's, and I still don't know if it's not because there's not a desire, but just too tired or whatever it might be, or the stress of life or anxiety or whatever, or it's the lack of desire. There is that, let's see, JP says, face palms of all face palms. You guys are dorks. Why, thank you, Jason. He may have to fill us in on how not to be dorkish. So, but
if you could be romance, Scotty, right?
Oh, I take it.
What would you actually like them to do? What would you like to happen?
I think romance isn't just about the high romantic scenarios that we think of as high romance. I think romance is the gritty, getting your fingernails dirty for the other person type of romance is what you do every day. Can you romance somebody and not be dressed up really nice and have gorgeous gifts and take them out for wine and a night on the town? Is that the only way we can define romance, or is romance defined by other things? I think romance is defined by many other things than just what we consider to be the Valentine's Day special. You know, Valentine's Day, I can understand it. It's the day you set aside to say, today we're going to do high romance.
Yeah.
But why can't we do that normally? Why can't we do that more often?
because people don't want to. People take it for granted. They take, and this is the truth. People, not all people, but pretty much a majority take each other for granted. They don't. They stop putting the time and the effort and investment into a relationship because they don't have to, because they've already got you. They've
I will tell
already
you,
got you. And it's only when they really, really want you and they don't want to lose you that perhaps they then put back their original effort that they did. And that's the truth. And unfortunately, it's not just, us that have experienced it. It's people out there will know that, well, because men are hunters. Men are hunters just like women can be, and they want what they don't, they want what they want, and they also want sometimes what they don't have. And there's all this there's all this you want what you can't have, so they go out looking for you, and they woo a woman and they invest time in her and send her lots of messages, or they take her out for dinner, or they buy her a drink, or let's go and do this. And then when they get you, or they think that they have you, or a woman gets a guy and she thinks she doesn't have to try anymore, they give up. We don't need to do that now. And it's like, that's where we lose that romance of being together. You have to keep that going. The momentum is one of my favorite words, but the momentum of that feeling and emotional attachment between you, and make an effort.
I also think, by the way, I'm acknowledging all of that. I agree. At the same time, I also think there are some things I want to be able to take for granted in a positive sense, not a negative sense. I want to take for granted that on the days I'm not at my best, that I'm not going to come home and my wife is going to have walked out on me. Or on the day, and I'm not talking about doing abusive things, I'm talking about just the norms of life. I want to be able to take for granted that it doesn't matter what comes our way as a couple, that we are together and we weather whatever happens. We either weather it, or we face it, or we enjoy it, or we hate it, or whatever, but none of that changes who we are and what we mean to each other. That is what I want to take for granted in life, is that love for that person and from that person is never going to change due to externals. And it's, all the corny songs in the world come to mind. What's the corniest that comes to mind? Even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey, blah, blah, blah. Songs like that, we hear those 100 times. But what do they say is the biggest factor for divorce with married couples? Finances. Even though we ain't got money, I'm still so in love with you, honey. Love doesn't cover everything. But I tend to be a little more idealistic than that. I think our culture, our society, especially here in the West, has eliminated things out of the way men and women are supposed to interact with each other, because love can cover a whole hell of a lot of things. Love, the only thing love cannot conquer is contempt. And so if in your relationship contempt has eked its way in, there's very little chance of coming back from contempt. Once you've allowed your relationship to get to the place where one or the other of you, or both of you, are contemptuous of the other. And then you have to be just as, the whole 20 years from now, you'll regret more of the things you didn't do than what you did do. Then you got to decide, is this where I want to be? Do I want to continue in a contemptuous relationship in hopes that it will get better? So I take for granted that people, when they love each other, contempt doesn't have room to eke in and rise. I take for granted that people who love each other have the ability to continue to love each other no matter what. And it doesn't matter what happens to you as a couple, as a relationship, as a family, that I take for granted that when we love each other, that is going to remain. But there's only one but in there. It's a big but. We both gotta want that. Both the people have to want that and have to nurture that and have to make that happen. So
And
that's
I
go ahead.
agree with you 100%. And the thing is, when one of you is putting more effort in than the other one, and the other one, do they actually know that they're not putting the effort in? Do they actually say to themselves, oh, I don't need to do it, or what do you mean? I am doing this. I do this for you. Because sometimes when you bring it up and go, well, actually, you don't. And I do think that men or women, which one it is, if you have a partner and you take them for granted, that partner will only take so much before they turn around and go, no, I've had enough. And I think when people talk about romance, when the romance goes out of a relationship, and don't get me wrong, Scotty, you've got to work at keeping romance in a relationship. You know, after you've been with someone for a period of time, you just like, they annoy you. You want to, like, you know, shut them in a cupboard and lock the door because they drive you nuts, or you want to, you know, you just want your own space or whatever. When all these things come in, how do you keep the romance alive? And that is, you know, it takes investment, that takes emotional investment. And some people, if they can't do it, they don't want to do it
For
anymore.
me,
Or
that's the
much
given.
effort.
That's the given of keeping romance alive is you want to make that investment.
Yes.
I will tell you this, though, based on personal experience, and I think you've had this experience as well. Maybe some people out there have had that. There are times where you continue to make that effort, and when it is not reciprocated or it is thrown back in your face, Jason just gave some very good examples of that. There's a point where the other person will go, why don't you make me cards like you used to? Let's use that as an example. Well, because the last several times I did that, it got thrown back in my face in one form or another. And so that left me in a position of saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't like being rejected by my own wife.
Yeah.
Or my own person that I have invested my time being romantic with. And sometimes the other person's inability to want to remain romantic is very contagious. Because after a while you go, Jason used the example. I'm out there washing dishes and talking to my woman, and all of a sudden, and I do that because I want her to feel that I don't expect her to do that.
Yeah.
That I'm part of this and I'm part of maintaining the, and then I'm criticized for how I wash the dishes. Or, hey, I'm cooking tonight, not because it's my wife's job, it's the woman's duty to cook, and I'm taking that off you today. It's one of saying, hey, I'm part of this. Let me cook tonight. You don't have to do it tonight. I'm going to do it. But you get criticized for what you make, how you make it. How come you didn't let that boil for 12 minutes? You only let it boil for 9, and or whatever it might be. Criticism is a killer of romance, and you can try to be romantic. And you know what we need to do? We need to just go. You don't know how to cook, and you used a little too much of this or that. But man, this is the best tasting thing I ever had. Lame example, but that's what you do in a romantic situation. You don't go, hey, thank you for cooking this wonderful meal. The pork really sucks. Or that's who taught you how to cook.
But don't you think one of the greatest aphrodisiacs is to know that you're desired, wanted, yearned for, longed for? Don't you think that's an aphrodisiac? To know that, and you see it from your partner. Don't you think that's such a great aphrodisiac?
Yes, that's a great aphrodisiac. I would think that showing how much you love somebody by the daily tasks, the daily things you do, even the ones you don't do. There's going to be days you don't feel like doing shit. But there's most of the time you spend your time working for that other person. And when it is not recognized, you say, do you really not see that? Or are you just blind to it? Are you blind to it, or are you just ignoring it? Because you would rather feel what you're feeling, which might be contempt at this point. You want to hang on to that, clutch that contemptuousness, because as long as you do, you can't see the romance. You can't see the effort. So usually when there is somebody that doesn't want to do that, that's somebody that's already checked out. And for some reason hasn't left it far behind, but is checked out. You go, why are you checking out? And you find that, 9 times out of 10, Jason, I'll say this to you too. And everybody in these situations, many times we do things wanting to show the other person that we love them and care about them, and we want to do it in every little thing we do. You are my life. But many times the other person doesn't want that anymore. And they would rather hang on to the criticism. They would rather hang on to and you know what? Like for me, I'm easy to criticize. I'm an easy target. I got all kinds of junk in my life. I'm not talking bad stuff. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff. You can criticize me for everything. But it's like, don't criticize me for this. I've been doing this for this number of years, or I've always known how to do it. Can you contribute and teach me how to do things better? Sure, that's part of romance. But Jason, maybe you can find some affinity with this. I will say this too, is that sometimes when relationships, all they are is fighting criticism, it becomes old, and you forget to get a Valentine's card for the other person. I am so, you know why? Because you feel like deep down inside, maybe you don't even articulate this in your own head. Deep down inside, you think, I'm going to be criticized for this card. Or I'm pouring my heart out into something. How many of you write cards to the person you love? Valentine's Day or any time? Any of you written a poem? Doesn't have to be a good one. Written a poem? Have you written down a sentence that isn't I love you very much. I hope I get to see you in great lingerie tonight so we can do it. That's not a love poem. So how many of you have made that effort for the other person? That effort is going to be something that's noticeable. And if it's not noticed and you're criticized through it, you better rethink where you're at and have to decide, what am I doing? And I'm lapsing into areas I didn't want to get into. I'm sorry with the trying to make conclusions or decide, or I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, I think romance is all about doing. It's all about, doesn't matter which member of the relationship you are, which party you are, it takes doing. And you know what? And it's not work. Romancing somebody you love is the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. And yet so many of us, and the other thing I've noticed is that a lot of us, and I use these terms, gently, but it's like there are some of us who are very emotional, who do invest, that are very romantic, who are very affectionate. We tend to sometimes pick people who are not like that. And although they appear like it at the time, as time goes on, we actually realize we've picked someone completely different to us, who doesn't understand and is not going to get the whole romance side of thing. And we're like, how did we end up with someone who's completely different to me? Right. And I'm not going to get back what I give out, because some of us, they say you don't give to receive, but come on, we all love to get something back.
We do. And, We love getting back. We love being recognized. JP says right here, if I hang on to my frustrations and irritations, then I don't have to recognize that you're helping and being supportive and that this is a safe relationship and it's okay to let my guard down. That's what the other person sometimes think when you're putting out the effort. And then he goes on, if I do let my guard down, I have to give up all this angst and defensiveness and these walls, which is how I've come to define myself.
Yeah.
Ooh, that hit way home.
Yeah.
There are so many people out there that are so damaged.
Hello.
From previous relationships,
Yeah.
previous things in life.
Yeah.
They have determined that you are going to damage them too, but they don't enter the relationship saying that. I fully anticipate, yeah, let's do this. Let's do whatever it takes. Let's have a relationship. But I fully anticipate you're not going to be able to please me. You're not going to be able to help me dig myself out of my hole of my past. And I'm going to gauge you and every action you make by all the bad things that have ever happened to me. So expect nothing from me but criticism. They don't tell you that at the beginning because I don't think they can articulate that. They don't even know they're doing that. And
I have to be honest, the last, I actually do tell, I have actually said, I have huge walls to climb. And the moment you get past the wall, there's a Rottweiler and an alarm and barbed wire to get through as well. Because, I have been hurt. I have been hurt a lot. And it has damaged me. Of course, it's damaged me in lots of ways. And even though I've done the therapy and counseling and years of work on myself, there is triggers. There are triggers that someone can say, they can act, they can react. And the next thing you know, you're triggered. And you're back there in that moment, especially if you've been in an abusive relationship, verbally, emotionally, or physically, or mentally, whatever which way you want to put it like. And I think that when you meet someone and everyone puts their good foot forward, they're all sort of hearts and flowers and you look amazing and let's go out and I want to see more of you. And they want to like take in as much as you want. And you think, love bombing, if that's the word you want to use. And then you think to yourself, if I lower my walls, if I just lower my walls, is it safe to let you in? Because can I go through that heartbreak again? Can I go through losing myself again? And for me, so I have met people in my life, not many, I'll be honest, maybe one or two, that I've had no defenses up against. I could not and have not had any protection to put my defenses up. And it makes me bloody vulnerable and scared as shitless, because you think, oh my God, this person could really crucify me. And I think that, we're so busy trying to protect ourselves, which we are, all of us are protecting ourselves from more hurt, from, on that lot. We forget that there are also these lovely sides of relationships, which are getting to know one another, spending time with each other, learning about each other, the romance of a kiss, the romance of holding hands. Because people go, that's not romantic. And it's like, actually, it is romantic. If a man takes your hand or puts you on the inside of the street, so you're on the pavement and he's walking down on the outside of the road, that's romantic. If he opens the door for you, or the car, I'm still old school, or puts his hand on the back of you as you go through, that's romantic. It doesn't always have to be, let's go upstairs and shag my brains out, because whilst that's fun, don't get me wrong, and I'm all for that, I also want someone that gets me in here. They actually, as well as in here, because not being funny, I mean, I can go upstairs. I've got enough outfits in my wardrobe to keep someone busy for a long time. But if you don't invest in me emotionally, if you don't invest in me mentally, and you don't show me that, it doesn't matter how, you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it from me.
A song came to mind. that I had learned many, many years ago. I want to say the songwriter's name was John Michael Talbot. Might be wrong. He was a Christian songwriter. He was somebody who had left the world and gone into being a monk, I believe. I don't know his whole backstory, but he understood relationship, and he wrote this song called "The Walking Wounded."
Mm.
He said, "She's one of the walking wounded, but the bleeding doesn't show. Behind the walls around her heart where none's allowed to go.
Yeah.
It's been this way for so long now, she can't remember when she could still hope for tomorrow. So instead, she just pretends." She's one of the walking, and the second verse says something about alone behind the windows, curtained with her pride. She'll once again engage her pain and sneak away inside. I wish I could remember the words to that, but that's what came to my mind was that song. Is how many people are harboring some kind of pain that will not allow them to engage.
Yeah.
Is it because everybody who doesn't engage in romance is an asshole? No.
And we also self-sabotage. We self-sabotage as well. But we don't believe when we do meet somebody who is or seems genuine, we don't believe them. We're so used to being hurt that we self-sabotage and push them away, deny or joke with them. And I think that's what happened. That's a form of protection. You know, that is a and I think it's exhausting. It's exhausting, you know, when you and I were talking today, when you go into a relationship, you're so wary that you're going to get hurt again. You're so wary that you're going to get damaged again, that you're like, can I do this again? Can I give myself again? And I think that if you date someone that has been hurt or damaged and they still have the ability to give you something of themselves, then they're brave souls, you know. And I think romance is, you know, just little by little, you know, it helps bring perhaps, you know, I don't mean love bomb them, but I mean, like, as you say, walking down the street, holding their hands, you know, making something from them. Oh, I saw this and thought of you. I rang to hear your voice. I miss your voice. How's your day been, babe? What's going on? The little touches like that. And I think that, or even a song between us. I'm a big believer in songs. If a man sends me a song and says, I heard this today, babe, and thought of you, that's romantic as hell to me. I love that.
And guys need to do that. And
women too.
By the way, this song I was quoting, that second verse says, when she thinks no one can see her, sometimes she'll crack the door until she feels her fear again and locks it like before. Alone behind the windows, curtained with her pride, she'll once again embrace her pain and turn away inside. And then the chorus of the refrain says, to give away her heart before had been her first mistake. She knows she shouldn't doubt him now, but there's just too much at stake. And still he keeps on calling, but she pretends she doesn't hear. He longs to touch and heal her, but she never lets him near.
No.
And that's the refrain of that. And it's classic. It's classic the way people are and the way they act. And deep inside, she's hoping all the feelings she feels are wrong. It says in that song.
We all want to be loved, Scotty. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel it. And we want to give it as well. We're not meant to be a one-sided pony. You know, we're supposed to give love and receive love. And you
Yeah.
know what? You know, it's an energy flow between the two of you. And I think Valentine's Day is where part of you is that maybe that 12-year-old kid again and goes, there's somebody I really like, and I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be rejected, and I don't want to go, hey, do you want to go out for coffee or a drink? And they go, no, you're all right. Or they ghost you, because that's the new one now.
Yes.
They
Yes.
just ghost you. They ignore you, and you go, "Oh my god, I've just sent this message. Oh my god, they just read it. The tick went blue. Oh my god!" And they just leave it on red, and they don't talk to you. And so, with Valentine's Day, it's a safe thing. You can get a card. You can send it to someone and go, "I'm not going to rub my nose in this at all. I just sent it to them." And maybe you work with them. Maybe they're friends of a friend. It's not all Sleepless in Seattle, you know, where she goes out to what's that building? What's the building she goes to?
The Empire State Building.
Yes, and sees Tom Hanks and his little boy there. Unfortunately for the rest of us, we don't have that. We don't have that at all. But I noticed
equivalents, though, you know, so it could be the Pancake House, you know.
I agree what Claudette says, though. We should have some or not, maybe not big, but we should have expectations, or we settle for less. And I don't know about you, Scotty, but I'm sick of settling for less.
Me too.
I am so fucking tired of settling for less. I want, do you know what I want?
You get less.
There's a line from Carrie Bradshaw, and I wonder if I can bring it up quickly. That she says in Sex and the City, and I let me just bring this up. She says, I am someone who is looking for real love. Ridiculous, inconvenient, consuming, can't live without each other love. And that is 100% me, because I have had less. I have had it again and again and again, the emotional unavailable man and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, do you know, at this point in my life, unless you can bring on the full Monty, as in the all-consuming, involved in each other, you know, it's the little things, I'm not interested. And I will just remove myself after a period of time. If it doesn't get shown and you're giving it, you just remove yourself. And I think that's what we all want. We are all, if we're honest in some ways, we're all looking for someone who's looking for something real, genuine, real love, something that is ridiculous, that other people might look at those two together, but they're in their own world. They don't care. Something that is inconvenient, so you're never a pain in the ass to the person. They're never like, I've always got time for you. Don't be silly. I might only have 2 minutes, but I've always got time for you. Something that consumes you, so you don't know where you begin and the other one ends, and you are lost when you are together, whether it's a 5-minute conversation, whether it's a week away or whatever. You are lost in that time. You both give the time to each other, and you can't live without each other. I mean, what's the point of, here's a question. What is the point of dating and being with someone? All right, you're getting to know them, but as time goes on and you're thinking, actually, I kind of like this person, and the dating's going quite well. If you don't have that, I really want to be with them, I don't want to be without them. Otherwise, what's the point? What is the point of dating anymore? I will tell you something.
I want that person that wants as much as I do to be able to tell their boss, yes, I was late this morning by a couple of minutes, but I had to stop and hug and kiss my husband or my wife before I left the house. I couldn't rush out the door and not do that.
Yeah.
That's where that becomes more important than punching that clock on the minute. And if you want to fire me for that, you know, then you know what? I got a better place to be. And I'm serious about that. So I don't punch clocks well anyway. So I'm an anarchist.
But you know what? I think that the biggest thing I want to say, Scott, is we deserve that kind of love because
Yeah.
we give it. We give it. And why do we settle for less?
Yeah.
Why do we waste our lives on relationship after relationship where we do not get it back?
Yeah. I think those are very good questions that we will have to deal in another show because they're whole
Oh.
shows. And I hate to say this, I have my son's wrestling meet I have to go to, and I can't stick around and talk so much. It's already 5. We've been going at this for almost an hour and a half.
Hour 20, yeah, we have.
And I have to leave. But for love of my son, not romantic love, but it's love of a kind. I want him to know I'm going to be there to see him. So he's already going. He's already wrestling. So I got to get there and see. Hopefully, don't miss all 3 of his matches. So there's that. That's why I've got to leave. Otherwise, I'd stick around.
Well, you know, Scotty, just know that on Valentine's Day, sending you lots of love and a massive hug. And, you know, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, just to know that someone thinks you're brilliant and awesome and they love you to pieces makes you feel less alone.
Well, that means a lot to me. Thank you. And I love you very much, too.
Thank you, babe.
So, folks, we got to go. And we got to go because I got to go. Otherwise, Wendy could probably stick around for 2 more hours.
No, and, I have to go to bed. I've got a show to do. God damn it, tomorrow as well. So.
That's right. That's right. In the morning.
Yes. Will it be my afternoon?
Well, morning
your guys' morning. Yes, it
Be
is.
sure to join Kenny Ballos for Morning Coffee with KB, blended with Wicked Women and Wendy. And
Val
there as well, I think.
Yeah, Val will be there as well. So yeah.
Join Kenny. It'd be 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, and that would be 3 p.m.
2
p.m.
2 p.m.
England time, London time.
Don't worry, Phil Guy, we won't miss you.
So
he says I'll be sleeping. Okay, no worries.
Well, gosh darn, son, can't get up for nothing, huh?
No.
So I get it. It's all right, field guy. We'll carry on without you. We'll find a way.
Scotty, happy Valentine's Day, and you know, make sure if you don't get any romance, you romance yourself. Treat yourself.
Cameras off. I will talk to you soon. And everybody else, you have a good Valentine's Day tomorrow. Romance the one you love. And if you don't have anybody to love, romance yourself. There it is. Just what Wendy just said. So let's get out of here. I thank you for being here. Thanks for taking your time to be with us, to do this thing. And we'll see you next time. So live long and prosper. You too, Wendy. See you later.